start.
Okay. Now. So everything seems to be recording.
But for how long are we going to have this?
The video's a little laggy, but I have no idea. Fuck it, we got a short one, so we'll see.
It won't even matter.
Jimmy, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. 10:20. What time do you say you're leaving?
About 11. 11:10 would be 11:05 would be a good time to stop. And then I can help clean up
'Kay.
and then leave.
Well then,
So
we got numero cuatro.
yeah, number 4. But number 4 is going to be a short one, I guess.
Yes.
Or you can call it like 4A and then have a 4B.
Yeah, we could do that. Technically, 4A should have been Jabron and I last night.
Oh, yeah.
Jabron came over, like I was saying, and just, dude,
You guys didn't do anything?
So I didn't finish explaining. Like, this sativa that you gave me
Yeah.
is like
It's a sativa hybrid. It's not a full sativa.
whatever the fuck it is.
And
Like,
I was giving you another.
My brain operates on 1,000%.
It's supposed to be more like, because I remember, if anyone doesn't know, like indica's more like body dominant high and sativa's more like mind dominant high. So you have like definitely more cerebral effects, right? When you're smoking sativa. So
Yeah,
the more creative.
But I've smoked some sativas with you before,
yeah,
and
this one's just different.
the depth in which my thought process operates in is.
I just smoked some of what you're talking about right before we started this, and it feels like a morning cup of coffee to me.
Okay, he's just chewing on his own pause now, so that's good. Morning cup of coffee, really?
Yeah.
Dude, I spent like 40 minutes before I went to bed last night trying to figure out what time was.
What time was?
Yeah.
I think time.
I came to the conclusion that time is... Hey, fuck off. Time is the fabric of reality that allows existence to experience itself.
I think time is self-made by men.
No, it's definitely not. Because
it's like a concept that we gave.
The name.
Yeah.
But it exists.
But when you ask an animal what time is it, do you think they'll know what time it is? Like 4 p.m., like 4:32 p.m. Or do you think it like you know what I mean, right? It's
like ask a fucking deer what grass is. They don't know.
Yeah, but like it's just time is a concept that was made by men.
Yeah, but everything is a concept made by men. That's a very reductionist way to look at it.
I guess so, but it's still like, like it's time, I think, is...
Okay, listen to this, because this is the reason why I said it is... Well, okay, it's the precursor for perception. Because if you can't distinguish between two different temporal states, you can't perceive anything.
What are the two temporal states, like?
Before and after.
Before and after.
The experience of moving through time is what allows you to perceive things. Because if you don't have any temporal comparison, then you're not perceiving anything. Because perception is 100% based on
what you're experiencing right at this moment.
What you're not experiencing. It's a contrast, right? It's like how you talk about existence and non-existence, right? You can't have existence without non-existence.
Yes.
You can't have something without nothing.
Yeah, right? And nothing can't be there without the something.
Without dark. So you can't have a comparison without time. This made a lot. I promise you, this made a lot more sense.
Okay, I can't follow. I can't seem to follow. So
it's okay. If you only had one, if you were one moment in time,
yes,
what would you be? What would existence be?
It would just be this moment.
But what is this moment if you don't have time?
At this moment doesn't rely on time, though.
Yes, it does, because it's only a moment in reference to other moments in time.
But
You know what I
those
mean?
but those moments are no longer moments because they've passed.
Yeah, but they
So-
were at one point.
They were.
So what happens?
But
like,
that war,
how do you-
but that war concept is made by men, is what I'm trying to say. Is that we kind of created history, and
I
then
know.
we. So I feel like I think you and I are like two different, like, I guess, concepts of what time and space is. I guess I kind of see time and space as like a linear concept, like a horizontal plane concept, right? Because with time and space, you can go from point A to point B, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it's unidirectional.
But there can
right?
be vectors, but like it just seems like it only goes from like it's almost like a horizontal plane.
Right. Well, they
Like-
interact, right?
Yeah.
They're what do you call it? Indirectly correlated. So as time increases, space decreases. Like, you know, if you had it plotted on
I'm
an
not-
XY graph, right? If you're not moving, time moves at maximal speed. As you start moving, time slows down because it's a continuum. So as you go up on the Y axis,
Yeah.
if space is on the Y, right, time would be on the X axis. As you increase your movement
I
through
was gonna
space,
say
time
space
slows.
and time is on the same axis.
It's not on the same axis. They oppose each other.
Okay.
That's why the satellites that track our GPS have to be calculated to be different than our GPS on Earth, because the lower gravitational pull
Yeah.
on the satellites in space actually makes time, what would it be? I always mix this up in my head. Time is slower here. Time is faster on Earth
Time is
because
faster.
we have a bigger.
because I think this is even happens in like space travel where you like go somewhere else, you
Yeah.
age slower, right?
But it's technically that
But
happens
is that
always.
based on or is that based on
No,
like
no, no,
how
that's-
fast you're traveling and like that
It's
decreases
speed.
your age?
That's what it is. It's how much of a dent you're making in space-time curvature. So
Okay.
you've seen those those diagrams of the Earth in the center of the what would you call it? The divot in space-time.
I just worried Jeff was gonna touch the hot.
Oh, I don't care if he burns himself. That was really mean. But he's a fucking menace.
He is a bit of a menace.
It's like the Earth is in the middle of the bowl of space-time and the plane of the bowl represents the effect gravity has on space-time. So as you have more gravity, space-time stretches, so time moves faster. So the satellites are further away from the gravitational pull, so time is actually moving slower in
Okay.
that location in space.
I see what you mean.
And then
by
that's
that.
why when you go away really fast and come back, you've aged less.
Yeah.
Maybe I have it backwards.
I'm not sure.
This always fucks
That's
me up.
something I never really delved into, I guess.
So let's just pretend
I
I didn't
just-
bring that up at
I
all.
just kind of thought, I just kind of figure space and time is the same thing, and it's almost like I don't know, time is something that I feel like is a made up concept. It's there, sure. You know,
yeah, I
like
know.
there
you
is
keep
a
saying
night
that,
and a
but
day,
everything is a made up concept.
but
A table is a made up concept.
okay,
Person is a made up concept.
it is.
Anything we name is made up by humans, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know why you had to get so angry.
I don't get why you're saying it. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just because of I guess it was when I was reading about like The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle, and that's what I'm trying to keep refer to.
Right.
And it's like when you get stuck in the concept of time, you're really just living in past and a future, right? So that's and
Right,
it's
right,
I'm
right,
I'm,
right,
I'm
right. I know
talking
you
about
mean.
a philosophical point of view rather than like a
Right.
scientific point of view, like where
Right.
time and space is on like a different axis, and you can plot, you know, like the whole space and time and the location of those things, and then they can be spending different times and at a different rate because of based on how far they're away from each other.
Right.
But then I kind of like to just go back as, you know, we could put a science to it, but doesn't explain how it's relevant to ourselves.
right. So
And-
when
yeah.
like you're trying to say we're never actually experiencing the past or the future. We can only ever experience one.
Exactly. So like what's
cross-section of
what's
time
the
and
most
space.
relevant thing to ourselves is, instead of like trying to theorize what time and space is, it's like, okay, what is relevant to us for space and time? And it's only ever, you only get to experience what you're experiencing. So it's kind of irrelevant what the past and the future really depends on, unless you have an actual goal and a vision. Then that becomes different, because then you're not really trying to live in the future. You're trying to plan this particular moment so that the future is what you want it to be.
Right.
So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I guess we're just
But
talking about two
I have
different things.
a large appreciation for studying things like that, just from an interest perspective.
Yeah, you definitely do. You're more like, I see you as more of a scientific guy. Oh, of course. What's happening there?
He's eating. Sorry, I keep looking. There's my mom's ex-boyfriend's dog is here.
It wouldn't stop barking when we left it in the house. So
Yeah,
we had it
he's a
join
menace.
us.
Yeah, shit. Why can't I used to have all of this astronomy information like just at the top of my head,
Yeah.
because I took a lot of classes in school, and between second and third year university, I spent a lot of time just doing nothing but smoking weed, watching documentaries.
Yeah.
So I used to be able to rhyme off like every fucking stat about quantum physics. And
So you like those type of documentaries, eh?
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. Like
I really liked.
Neil deGrasse Tyson shit.
Okay, I see what you mean. I liked a lot of like Planet Earth documentaries when I was stoned watching documentaries.
Right.
Those were like very enjoyable for me.
Right.
Oh,
sorry. Just to clarify, I did get it backwards. As space-time stretches, time moves slower.
Okay.
So, time is slower here than it is for the satellites. So our GPS and the satellites need to be calculated so that they understand the time difference. Or else, so if you had the same clock here on your GPS as you did on the satellite, within like, I can't remember how long it is. I think it's within a reasonable amount of time. The satellite's clock will be noticeably faster than your GPS, even though they're moving at the same time.
So what has the, let's say, time zones?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with everything with time then? Like, well, how does that incorporate
the
into
Earth rotating?
The Earth rotating. So like that's what I get confused. I'm like,
Like
okay,
noon or whatever. What is it, like 2 o'clock or whatever is midday?
So that's what they have to be also calculating when the satellite and the GPS are also trying to locate each other.
No.
No.
The satellites are in. I think they're in.
Or do they follow the Earth's rotation?
Yeah. What's it? What's it called? The moon is tidal linkage. There's a name for it. So the moon moves at the exact same speed as the Earth, and it's called tidal. I hate when I can't remember shit like that. That's why we call the rise and fall of the oceans the tides.
Okay, the tides.
Because the Earth and the moon is what controls it, right?
I know they're regular.
I think the satellites also follow, but the Earth spins as well.
Yeah.
I don't completely understand how it works, but they calculate all that shit. Yeah. But
and like how they, and like when when a sniper takes a shot, they take into like a Coriolis effect.
Yeah, the spin of the Earth.
Yeah, and then that's like a main argument for people who, I don't know, like there we can go into the whole like the Earth is flat argument, you know, where people have that sort of argument. And they try to make claims, and I've never really looked into it, but like those are the things that they kind of bring up apparently, right?
Yeah,
I
don't even care to have that conversation.
Right?
It's like when we brought this up last time, you said it's like arguing with somebody that evolution is real. It's like, I'm not having the conversation.
Yeah, it kind of feels that same like I guess
absurdity.
They parallel each other, you know.
Well, it's just equally absurd to argue one of them. Listen, I didn't do the research on it, okay? I don't know for sure. I've never seen the Earth from space, but I've seen a whole lot of fucking pictures, and I watched some dude jump out of a fucking airplane with a parachute from space when the Red Bull thing. You remember that? Like,
the highest.
was it 3 or 4 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah, the highest jumped.
Yeah, I watched it on live stream. Okay.
Oh, you watched the live stream? I remember seeing that after the live stream. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very interesting thing.
Wait.
I don't know how many people would actually jump from that point of.
I think he's the only person. So
He's
far.
the only, but I don't know how many people would actually try to do that. You're literally jumping into Earth.
Do you think? Would you go to space?
Would I go to space?
Like, let's say,
it's a
years.
It's a huge honorable privilege to be able to go into space.
But let's say like 25 years, we have it like an amusement park where it's just like
I think they're saying by 2050 that's a kind of like a normal thing where they're gonna have stations that are like elevators that go from Earth all the way into space.
Would you go?
Yeah, why not? Like, why wouldn't you want to be able to see that aspect if you can? Like, that's like science being able to be relevant to the public, right? Like only the highest privileged people can actually go to space at the moment. But if that's open to the public, yeah, like I think some people who are interested enough should go see it. That's when we've made enough advanced technology advancements to be able to do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty sweet. They probably would have flying cars by then too.
I don't know if I'd do it.
You don't think you'd do it?
I don't know. I like the ground.
What if
I
they
think
were?
People are very well suited for the ground.
I would be more interested in an underwater kind of like thing, like where if they could like make more of an interconnected Earth through like the world's oceans.
Well, they're planning
like
that, aren't they already? Like,
I mean,
between the east and the west, like they've been planning that for years, trying to figure out if they can do like an underwater train.
Yeah, because that would be very cool.
What ocean is it that's in between the continents?
Pacific Ocean.
Pacific.
Yeah,
sure. That works.
I think it's the Pacific Ocean.
Fucking
I used to be good at geography. I used to be good at geography. Pacific Ocean. I'm pretty sure it's the Pacific Ocean. It sounds right. Because British Columbia, like, goes out into the Pacific Ocean. I'm pretty sure.
Then it's the Atlantic that's in between.
It's the Atlantic that's in between.
I'm talking about in between.
I thought you were talking about
Europe, not the other way.
Oh, us in Europe. I thought you were talking about Asia, Canada.
Oh yeah. Do you think of it like that?
What?
Do you think of like the BC side is in between us?
Well, what do you mean, like in between us?
Like in between the two continents, the two major continents, or whatever. I know they're not the only two continents, but like because
I guess just because there
South
is just
Korea, do you view it like that?
I guess so. Because it is like a 360 map, right?
Yeah, but so the map is always North America.
Yeah, but then
Europe,
if you
Asia.
just connect them, I think you can still like the distance between them isn't that far. Like between like the farthest point of like Russia compared to like the farthest point of like North America.
Oh, it's not far at all.
Yeah, it's
that's
not
the
far
Bering
at all,
Strait, right? Between Alaska and
that's how I
Asia.
see it as. Is like I'm like okay, that's why I see that bridge between the two.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's like just like universally accepted. People are like North America's on this side, Europe and Asia's on this side.
It is on that side, and I do see it that side.
Yeah.
But then when you connect the actual world, you notice that those two parts of the world also connect, and they're pretty close. So it's like, why wouldn't you kind of view it from that point? Because then that's where like where Japan, like the where they had radiation exposure from all the failed nuclear plants from their. I don't know how long this ago was.
Fukushima.
Yeah, Fukushima, but it was like a couple of years ago, 5 years ago maybe now, right?
Longer than that.
Longer than that, but the radiation is definitely coming to BC and California. Like you have to view it that way, right? Because if all the radiation, like it's gotta like somehow impact that, right?
Do you know how it works? I don't.
But like I'm pretty sure like
how can you say that?
Like, but the world's ocean titles, right? Like they must connect.
Yeah, but I don't know how radiation travels. Is it even affected by? Is it affected by wind? Is it affected by electromagnetism?
We should look into that. How radiation exposure actually like travels. Because like I remember, that it can affect like the soil you live in, right? Mm. It can affect like the water. It can affect your home. Like it can affect like materials. Yeah,
because particles can be.
So I wonder like and the water is pretty like frictionless molecules that travel pretty fast and with a body of water. So I wouldn't like that's how I kind of figured. I'm like, yeah, radiation might travel faster through water.
I have no idea.
But that was a concern for me for sure. I was like, yeah, that's like like even like all the countries around there too, that could have gotten more exposure to radiation because of that, right? Because as
I
much
don't know how
as
potent it is by the time it travels. That's the thing, right?
yeah, that's true. But I mean,
just
like
have no
the
idea.
Japanese government tries to hide their own land, saying that it's okay to. It's not like it's like it's okay still, but it's not like the levels are like way beyond like what is it acceptable like
Yeah,
radiation levels.
didn't people live there for a while after?
Yeah,
And
and
then
people
all
are
of a sudden
still. I
everybody
think,
was
I think
dying
people,
of these crazy fucking cancers and kids
yeah,
were being born with six
yeah, like they
arms
have
and-
some weird mutations going on. Like even like and like they studied like even the wildlife and the plants and so on and the mutations. So like it was affecting everything.
Mhm.
It wasn't just like them. So I would be curious to know how much of that really kind of exposed and spilled over to the whole world, like how an oil spill happens in like
Mhm.
the middle of the ocean, but like it's you can't really see it affecting the whole ocean, but it's affecting the whole world.
Yeah, but that makes sense, right? It's fluid in fluid. We can
fluid in
understand how that travels. I just have no idea how radiation.
Um, radioactive nuclear plants. The reason why there was a nuclear fallout was because it could no longer keep the heat down, right? And then
Yeah, and they didn't know how to fucking shut it off.
yeah, they didn't know how to shut it off, and I think that's what kind of like it, and it because it didn't know how to cool it down, all the atomic like ions kind of like started to like spread out or something, and I think that's how it started. The
They
radiation.
decay.
Yeah, decay. Yeah,
Radioactive decay.
yeah,
I
radioactive.
think that's. I'm just throwing out words, man.
No, but that's what it is, and they have like a half life of like 100 years or something or
No,
more.
no, no, no. It's like 150,000 years.
150,000
Yeah,
years.
it's
Oh yeah, so yeah, the
Yeah.
radiation stays for a while.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah, like it's fucked for forever.
But I think no, but in order for it to be accepted, like acceptable levels of radiation, like I think, how long do you think? Because like when did Chernobyl happen?
No, no, no. It's like
It's-
Chernobyl is like
like,
done for like
done
100,000 years.
Okay, so we can't touch that.
Yeah.
But Japan, people are still living in Japan, and you think that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, wow.
Yeah,
You
and
think
okay,
zombies are
how
gonna
about
be
this?
real?
How many plants do we have active around the world that if something goes wrong, we don't know how to shut them off,
Oh yeah, that's crazy too.
and we're building more. This is how fucking crazy
That's
we are.
sustainable energy, guys.
Jesus Christ.
That's our world's sustainable energy.
Yo, people are really smart, but then people are also really stupid.
I recently read that Tesla. Excuse me. What is it? Tesla or who's that? Elon Musk. I think he's helping create sustainable energy in Puerto Rico. Is that where it was?
That guy's doing shit everywhere.
Yeah, no, but it's because they had like one of the hurricanes hit them really
Yeah,
hard, and
okay,
like all
yeah,
the
yeah.
energies are like shut off. So like
I
they're
didn't
just
know
trying
that.
to create some sustainable. So I'm like, yeah, that's a great cause, but like, why don't we look into like? I think one of the things I remember from sustainable energy was like geothermal energy, and I thought that was so like so
Like
cool.
extracting heat
And
from
yeah,
the
from
Earth core?
from the Earth core, and like I'm like, hey, like I think that's something that's definitely doable. If we're drilling holes to pull
Well,
out oil,
None of
like like
none of this discussion anymore
yeah.
has to do with what's feasible.
Oh yeah, it's
We know
yeah, it's
we can power the
feasible,
whole
right?
world with
Yeah.
solar panels.
Yeah,
Like-
that's true.
Like it's not that we can't do it.
Yeah, it's
So
something
let's say
political.
like
I think,
let's say
right?
it's 100% political
Yeah,
and
like-
economic. So let's say you said after the year 2020, it's mandatory that when you have to put a new roof on your house,
yeah. Oh yeah, it's got to be solar.
50%
panel.
of
They're
the
already,
shingles need to be solar powered.
they're already kind of like allowing people to take like tax credits and stuff like that for having like solar panel roof homes. I think, or like they're giving out like
Maybe, I
yeah, they're like government has some sort of like funding for people who are like doing renovations or building new homes. Like if they're
Right.
they give some sort of like funding or tax breaks. I think I'm pretty sure.
Right.
For that. So, but yeah, like I can see where you're going with that. Like by
But
20,
yeah,
if
what
make it
if, like how
mandatory,
long would it
that'd be
take if you
sweet.
made that mandatory for everybody to be off the grid? Right?
Yeah, that'd be
And well, not off the grid. The way you do it is you'll actually get to the point where you generate surplus. Maybe not here,
yeah.
but if you're somewhere where it's sunny all year round, you generate surplus, and that feeds back into the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that we can't do that. We 100% could do it
Yeah.
if the right motivation and incentives were in order, but we don't. Like, the conversations like this kind of frustrate me because it's like we can go on and on and on about
yeah.
what could be possible, but the thing is all the
Let's-
people like Elon Musk, they already know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like It's not a matter of.
Yeah.
It's not like
It's
we're waiting
real
for
and ideal thing.
like
like-
Thomas Edison. What did he make? The light bulb?
Yeah, but it
The phone?
wasn't.
I don't know.
But
Whatever.
what did he? There was two types of electrical, like configurations, and one was AC and one was DC.
Yeah, and
And
Nikola Tesla
it's
made it first,
yeah.
but he wanted to make it
And-
free to everybody.
And that one was more efficient source of energy.
Yeah.
I think configuration compared to
Yep.
what Thomas Edison put
Yep.
out. But
And he said he wouldn't sell it. He said,
Yeah.
I'm only going to release this patent if it's free for everybody. And not ironically, what's the opposite of ironically? I don't know.
what already is.
Coincidentally,
Okay.
Elon Musk
Mhm.
is saying the same thing about Wi-Fi. He wants to just throw up a bunch of satellites
And
and
make
give
Wi-Fi free.
everywhere, the whole
That'd be
world,
amazing.
free Wi-Fi.
That'd be amazing.
But obviously, there's a lot of people who don't want him to do that.
Of course, but here's the thing that's different about Elon Musk and Nikola Tesla is like Elon Musk is a businessman. He's also a business.
I don't
I
know
think
him.
he's more like a business
follow
oriented
him
individual than more like a sign. Like he's very like obviously he lets his ideas come to fruition. Like Nikola Tesla had amazing ideas, right? And he was probably the most forward thinking person at like that point of time, right? Like especially like trying to get electricity be able to be free for everyone. That was huge back then. It's still not free for everyone. Like to want to do that then is a huge thing, right? But it was so ahead of his time. He couldn't actually make an influence and an impact, right? If he was a business and if he had a business and political influence and he used that for what he knew, then maybe today the world would actually have free electricity. So that's what's important is like, hey, you have these great ideas, but are you able to be competing with the rest of the world to make it come true, right? Otherwise, it just becomes good for you and like, a great innovation, but how is it applied for everybody? It's like it's that little extra steps I think is also important for innovators and stuff, right? So you can make the greatest invention that can be helpful for everyone, but if you can't make it, like if you can't compete with the rest of the world's market, like how is everyone going to be able to use that product? Or how is like your mission statement going to come to life if that's what you're going to aim for, if that's what your business is going to be, right? So that in that sense, I think not Nikola Tesla, like Elon Musk might actually be able to make free Wi-Fi for the world, just because he made his own car brand essentially, first electric car brand.
And you know
right?
what else he did with Tesla? He released the blueprints.
Wow.
For how he makes the electric Tesla,
And that's how
just said all companies just start using it. Now, this is where
how
it's
transparent he is,
part
though.
humanitarian, but it's part of business move because if he's the only one making electric cars, people aren't buying them because there's no charge stations. They're not popular, right?
Yeah.
There's no mechanics that can work on them. So it's also a business move because if other
That's definitely a
companies
business
start
move.
implementing
Yeah.
this, now he's going to make more money because people say, well, there is a charge station every
And when
20
he
kilometers.
when he makes more money, he's gonna throw satellites into the sky and have free Wi-Fi for the world. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I think if he actually wants to do that, he'll be able to do it. That's one man where I feel like he'll follow his like dream to the end kind of person, which is very motivating and inspirational for like
I hope so.
anyone to kind of like just look what he's doing. Like he's literally following his dreams. Like he wants to send people to Mars. He wants to colonize that place, and he's trying everything he can to do it, right? And I think like that's what's really like, and just like I don't know as much about him as maybe other people. He probably has some bad news side to him. Like I'm pretty sure he's been married, remarried, then divorced like 4 or 5 times. I don't know, but
Whatever.
like it's just like those things don't matter. It's like what he's doing matters, you know. And I think I was at this opening called it was a business opening called Moonbase in downtown Niagara Falls on Queen Street, and it's like a design studio, collaborative workspace for like artists and creative individuals. And it was an opening for that, and the mayor of Niagara Falls came actually, and he was always during his speech as the opening, he was talking about, it's not about where it was, where it is now, it's about where it's going. And he was talking about how like the GO train stations, like it's gonna come right down to downtown like Niagara Falls, right, like Queen Street, right, in like a couple of years, and like things like that. It's like it's about looking ahead. It's about what's coming up for you. It's not about where it was, and so like I think everybody who's has seen like has been anywhere like great in life, like they've come from a dark place too, you know, or like something that's like a fuel for their like, you know, high achievements, or like I'm pretty sure they faced a lot of failures, and I think Elon Musk did too. Like he like if you like look through his like stories or like his like YouTube videos,
Yeah,
like
well,
the things he had, yeah,
Jabron and I were talking about that last night,
Yeah.
about people coming from like their terrible past, and we were talking about the whole thing of not playing the victim. Like
yeah,
you look at the greats of the greats, like, you know,
Yeah.
people who are just overachievers, like, you know, the Rocks, the Kevin Harts, the Joe
Yeah.
Rogans, the Jordan Petersons, the people who are just at the elite of the elite level, the Neil deGrasse Tysons, the Elon Musk, like
Yeah.
people like this. You can guarantee that you go back in their past and they have worse shit than you've ever endured.
yeah,
Like when you get to that upper level, 100%, because that type of diamond needs to be catalyzed by coal and a lot of fucking heat and pressure
yeah,
over time,
exactly.
and just constant pressure, and finally you have a diamond. Like you can't just get to that level of greatness. Like even the same thing, you look at athletes, right?
Yeah,
Like those, like, I don't know, like a Kobe. I don't know his past.
Yeah.
Or like a Michael Jordan. Like you guarantee that they had some shit, dark
Yeah, like
demons in their past that
not-
maybe they've talked about or maybe they haven't. But
not even dark demons, like that too, but it's just their failures. Like every one of them
I
are
consider that a demon.
that's a demon, but it just like if there's one characteristic that probably stands out between all of them, it's like resilience. You know, like you like, and it always goes back to that Rocky quote. It's really not about how hard you punch. It's about how hard you can get wrecked, right? How bad you're gonna fall and still come back up. It's
Yeah.
always about that. How resilient are you?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's like going
'cause,
back
like,
to basketball. Steph
Yeah.
Curry, he's fucking like the best player in the league right now. He was told going through college
Yeah.
that he wasn't big enough, he wasn't good enough to play college ball, and his coach. There's an interview of his coach talking about him, saying like he is always the first one on the court, and he's always the last one on the court, and he would stay after practice,
And I guess
he
that's
wouldn't
another
leave the
thing, too,
gym
is, like,
until he
hard
hit
work.
like 100 3-pointers or something like that, like something a little excessive, right? And then, you know, he worked and worked and worked, and there's a video of him. I don't know if it's the full video, but I've seen part of it, where he's in practice, he's shooting free throw or 3-pointers,
Yeah.
and he hits 97 out of 100.
Wow, that is impressive. Holy shit.
Right.
That is
Now
some
that's
skill.
That's fucking
It's a skill
4 or 5,
refining.
6 years of being the last one in the gym after practice.
Yeah. But that's, I guess, okay, so then it's also like being resilient and hardworking is also, I guess they're like synonyms though to me, you know? If you're resilient, yeah, you're hardworking in a way, like,
I think the distinction is
but there is a
is
distinction. but
when
like,
you're doing it. So it's like I always
Okay.
tell people, like, dude, that morning you get up
Yeah.
and you feel sharp. You're just like, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna train hard today. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck up everything. I'm doing my chores, doing my laundry. You know,
Yeah.
like those days,
Mhm.
like that's hard work. But anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Anybody can perform when they or work hard when they feel like working hard. It's the day that you wake up and you know you're supposed to work out and you're tired, and maybe you're a little sore, and you start to make excuses and say like, nah, maybe I'll just wait for tomorrow. But you know you're not actually injured. You're not gonna hurt yourself if you train. You're just making an excuse. It's that day to go in and have your best workout is like the difference between hard work and resilience.
Okay.
Resilience is the ability to get up on that day and say, you know what, I'm, in spite of the fact that I'm
Okay. I
in the
see what you
shits
mean.
right now and I
You-
don't feel good, I'm
resilience
going to do
is-
even better than I
It's
am.
hard work even
than I
when
would.
it's like hard work.
Yeah. Like hard work is just the act of working hard.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, resilience takes into account what are your personal circumstances in
Mm-hmm.
which you will work hard.
Yes, and like that's really important because you know, like, because you can really be easy on yourself. But I think oftentimes some people are a little, but I can't say for some people, like not a lot of people are hard on themselves, in my opinion. They're not hard enough on themselves, right?
Mhm.
But you know, sometimes you catch yourself that you're too hard on yourself and all the things start to look wrong. It's like yeah, it's a day you're supposed to exercise, but all the things you're feeling like garbage, and you really do, right? And you're like today, and like and those days and that's when like I believe what you're saying, Matt, but I feel like sometimes I've gone to the wrong part of me where like I believe that so much where like I overdid it, or like I
Right.
would over and that then that's like, and there's like that fine line, right? It's
Well,
like,
that's why it's very
and trying
important.
to understand that fine line is what's more important. I'll like, not more important, but as important as working hard, right? It's like, when do you actually need to like kind of be like, okay, like this is where I need to let go and stop, or
Right.
this is going to get too much, and it's almost a negative thing, right?
Right.
But
But
you get less out of it the more.
it's a catch-22 because there's two it's a twofold issue.
Yeah.
One, you only find out where that line is by going over it.
Yeah.
If you've never gone over the line, you don't know where it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a little bit of a risk, but you have to be able to do it to
Yeah,
find the line. The
risk is
second
always
thing
important.
is this is where like we always talk about, and this is a big Jordan Peterson thing. It's like tell the truth, not just speak the truth to other people. Like don't lie to yourself. Don't. And this is a Miyamoto Musashi idea. He has like this list of the warrior code, let's say.
Yeah.
It's 8 items. The first one is do not think dishonestly, and that reminded me of that because if you're thinking dishonestly, so one day you get up and you say, "Oh, I can't work out today. I'm tired," and then you don't work out, and you actually weren't too tired to work out, but you convinced yourself you were. Now you don't have an honest you can't make an honest assessment now where that line is because
Yeah.
you've corrupted your ability to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've corrupted yourself at the most fundamental level
Which is
because you're
choose-
not
yeah.
you're convincing yourself that reality is different than it actually is.
Yeah.
Right? And then like you say, one day you wake up and say, "Oh, I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to go exercise." And you actually were injured, but you don't have the ability to discern between whether or not you actually shouldn't work out or if you're just making an excuse because you haven't practiced being honest.
So that principle actually plays both ways. Then that's a really good. That's a really good.
Right.
What is it? Like analysis of that. What was it again?
Well, the root of it is being honest, thinking
being
honestly.
honest.
Don't think
Yeah,
dishonestly.
don't think dishonestly.
Right? And that's
really
not
important.
just training. That's
Yeah.
anything in life. That's relationships.
Yeah.
That's like if you're like we were driving home from our OSCEs, our practical exams for massage therapy last week, and we were driving home and we're both talking about our grades and like, "Oh, I did really well in this and I did really well in this." And I realized through the conversation, I'm like, I'm 100% not concerned with what Jimmy's saying. I just want to tell him about all the great things that I feel right now about how I performed. And then I realized like, oh, we're both kind of doing it. But by being honest about it and not trying to pretend like, "Oh no, I really care what Jimmy's thinking right now," we can kind of like we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And like we were both kind of saying like it's in this position it's not a bad thing. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be narcissistic
Yeah.
during an exam. But because we both practice being honest with ourselves, we can look at a situation like that and saying, "Yes, I'm explicitly being narcissistic right now, but it's actually okay."
Yeah.
Like you learn how to distinguish between when is it appropriate to be
Yes. When is it
narcissistic.
socially acceptable?
Right.
What time is it to be like when is it time for playing? When is it time to be serious? You know, like, and like at that point, like we were like, we both understood the situation.
Right.
That's why we could be like, just talking about ourselves and not listen to each other. We were just talking at each other, not even
Yeah,
listening.
Yeah, and that thinking honestly applies to any any dichotomy where it's you're talking about the line.
Yeah.
Too far here, too short. Like the
think-
ability to think honestly is what allows you to discern that line in all factions of
Yeah,
of
and
existence.
like it always goes back to that. So for me, when I was this one class I took in university with Stuart McGill, was clinical approach kinesiology, and he always kind of mentioned a U graph or a U function. So like you have a graph and there's a U function, and you want to be right in the middle of the U. Anything after that is too much. Anything less than that is too little. And that's how the approach you have to do for not just the elite athletes who have very little room for error and little room for improvements, it's the same thing as for elderlies who have very little room for errors and little room for improvement. So like it's really cool. Like
it's a yin and yang.
yeah.
Right?
So and like it's like you can take the extreme of the sport and then the extreme of the population who are like who are ailment in movement, and their like prescription and their treatment plan is almost kind of like the same, as opposed to like someone in the middle has the most amount of room for error and mistake, right? So it's weird, and it's kind of thinking about like that in a sense, going back to what you were talking about. But that you function like nothing too much, nothing too little. You want to have just the right amount, right?
Right.
Just in between. And like that's
right. But you need to be able to discern where that is.
Yeah, being able to discern, and like then that's the theory. It's like, yeah, you want to be in the middle of the U function, but like how do you make that practical? Is you have to experience it and practice how to find that like line, right? And that's why experience always like is like I always really held up experience almost in higher regards than like in like theory and like being knowledge, because with experience, like you can use intuition to guide you too. It doesn't have to be based on like how much you know. So, but I think the best person would having both, you know, like, and having, a balance between the two, not too much of one, not too much of the other. You need to have both experience and knowledge, and then you can be the best applicator of it, and then have the best results from my point of view and standard point of view and perspective.
Well, there's the continuum, just to elaborate on that, there's the continuum when you talk about information, knowledge, and wisdom, right? And experience seems to be the catalyst between each step. So you start with information, right? You say something, you say words to me. Information, it's in my head. Now, given I call upon my experience, or I gain experience in the future, that catalyzes information to become knowledge. Which is essentially, I can understand what relevance the information has. And then more experience will catalyze knowledge into wisdom, which is what you're talking about, where now not only do you understand it in terms of the abstraction, but it's been, I don't know if you would say it's been integrated into your being to the point where now you can govern that or regulate that knowledge or have domain over that knowledge via intuition.
Yeah. Like
so
you
no longer have to consciously think about it.
It's like it's part of your thinking process.
Right.
Like it's almost like ingrained into how you develop your thoughts or how you articulate your mind.
To give that example of finding that midpoint of the U or the center point of the yin and yang.
Yeah.
So I've hit times where
we gotta call it quits. So it's kind of going over time.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's gonna take like 20 minutes to get to the clients. So I just want to make sure I kind of. But let's finish what you were saying, and then we'll call it.
What was I saying?
Something about
I've hit a point where my training is really good. I'm doing the right amount of jiu-jitsu, right amount of strength training, eating the right diet, sleeping the right amount, right?
Yeah.
Can I articulate what that concoction is? Like, could I tell you I train for exactly 3 hours and 42 minutes each week on jiu-jitsu. I train for 2 hours and 32 minutes in the gym.
Yeah.
And then I eat exactly 3.6 grams of kale. And, this is something where you do it over and over and over, and I can only intuitively understand where that the center of the target is, right? So that's where like the intuition comes in.
Yeah.
For those things that you can only understand intuitively, but that's only gained by going through the steps of information.
Yeah.
Have experience, now you have knowledge. Have more experience, now you have wisdom.
Yeah. And I like that continuum. That's a better model to look at what learning and having knowledge, and then what experience does, and like what the application experience to your knowledge does to your actual knowledge makes it into a higher hierarchy of information. And then to the point where enough experience, it's like you become the information.
Right. Yeah, I've never thought of it like that. Where
that's pretty
as
cool.
experience being the catalyst between the two.
Cool.
But that really seems what it's like, right?
That definitely is what makes makes it stick to you, the experience aspect.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, that's a great spot to end it.
Yeah.
I'll start off slow today, man.
Yeah.
I was up early hunting, and
It's okay.
I'm not firing on all
We've
cylinders
never
today,
done a
but-
morning podcast. This was kind of morning podcast.
No. And we had tons of difficulties setting it up. I've been trying to get a fire going in here for, I don't know, 45 minutes.
And
all the
despite
woods,
all the
wood's wet.
difficulties, thanks to Matt for being able to pull through and have all this set up, and so we can have this podcast.
Yeah, hopefully the video works.
Hopefully the video.
The
works.
my GoPro froze, so now I'm just recording
Yeah,
through photo
a lot of
booth.
technical difficulties.
We got a little more light in here now, so you can actually see us. But we made it, man. That's what
We made
what
it.
life's about, right? You gotta conquer adversity.
Resilience.
All right. Yes, exactly. Okay.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao. Good night. Oh, good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah,
I
good
lost
morning.
my track of time. Bye, everybody.